Hi there. My name's Ray Mercer. Retired Navy, 2 wars, 3 tours. A teenage boy once pressed a plastic gun to my head and laughed. He said I flinched. He didn't know who I was. Didn't care. And the worst part? A room full of kids cheered him on, like war was a punchline. Like sacrifice was something you mock in gym class. They didn't expect what happened next. But let me ask you this. What would you have done if that gun was pointed at you? I didn't want to be here. Not for this job. Not in this place. The building smelled like old wax and older sweat. Like time had settled into the walls. And decided to stay. They called it a rehabilitation center. But that was just lipstick on a bruise. This place didn't heal. It held. Kids with records. Staff with burnout. A state paycheck just big enough to keep the lights on. They told me I'd be a guest instructor. A veteran voice. Someone to talk to the boys about discipline, self-respect, leadership. But what they meant was this. Walk into a room full of teenage powder kegs. And try not to light a match. I pulled into the lot around 9. Gray skies. Empty flagpole. Just the way I remembered war. Quiet, gray, missing pieces. I sat for a moment in the truck. Let my hand drift to the inside of my coat pocket. Felt it. That metal. Or rather, half of it. The other half never made it home. Neither did Caleb. He was the best man I ever knew. He wore the other half when everything went to hell. I've carried mine ever since. Not out of pride. Out of debt. Inside, the clerk didn't look up. Just shoved a clipboard across the counter. Mercer, he said. Veteran class, Thursday, Friday, room 117. No handshake. No, thank you for your service. Just facts. Time. Location. I made my way down the hall. Floors clean enough to reflect regret. Doors humming with fluorescent indifference. I didn't belong here, but that didn't matter. Belonging hadn't been part of my life for a while now. Room 117 used to be a gym. Still had the basketball markings on the floor. Still smelled like mildew and chalk. 12 boys sat in plastic chairs. 11 of them slouched like they wanted to disappear. One sat upright. Arms crossed. Jaw tight. Watching me like I was a weak link in a chain he was ready to snap. His name, Jaden. I didn't need a roster to know it. He had that look. Hard edges. No fear. And just enough anger. To make him dangerous. Before I could speak, someone in the back said, loud enough for all to hear. What, they run out of real soldiers and bring in Grandpa? Laughter. Short, sharp. Not joyful. Just survival noise. I didn't flinch. Didn't smile. Didn't offer a clever comeback. I dropped my bag on the table. Pulled out a notebook. No logos. No name. I looked up at them and said, my name is Ray Mercer. You don't have to like me. You don't have to agree with me. But when I speak, you sit down. And you listen. That's how it works. Some of them scoffed. Others leaned back, arms folded. Jaden didn't blink. He tilted his head. Why should we care what you got to say? He asked. I met his eyes. Steady. Flat. You shouldn't, I said. Unless you've ever looked at your own hands. And wondered if they'll ever feel clean again. The room held its breath. Not all the way. But enough. I gave them a rundown of what I'd be teaching. Situational awareness. Discipline under pressure. How combat changes a person. How silence carries more weight than gunfire. No war stories. Not yet. They wouldn't understand them. And I wasn't ready to tell them. When the session ended, most of the boys bolted like the bell rang. Jaden stayed. Not to talk. Just to look. Before he left, he muttered, you look like somebody who saw too much and said too little. He didn't say it like an insult. He said it like a fact. Like he already knew what I hadn't told anyone. And he wasn't wrong. I walked out with that echo in my head. Hand back in my coat pocket. Fingers curled around the cold, familiar curve of that metal. Still broken. Still heavy. Still mine to carry. I thought I'd survived every kind of war. I was wrong. I thought I'd seen every lie ever told about war. But nothing prepared me for the day I saw 12 kids turn death into a game and laugh while doing it. It was the second session. Same room. Same cracked tiles. Same Jaden, sitting like he owned the floor. But this time, they brought props. Plastic rifles. Camo hoodies. Bandanas tied around their faces like they were playing insurgents. Some intern had let them borrow gear from the storage closet. Team building, they called it. Simulated tactics, the flyer said. I called it something else. Disrespect. They split into teams. 2 squads. 1 defending, 1 breaching. And they were loving it. Diving behind gym mats. Calling out, "Cover me," like they were in a video game. Firing rubber darts and shouting, "Kill confirmed." Like they'd ever had to clean blood out of boots. One of them fake died in the corner. Started laughing before he even hit the ground. Another shouted across the gym, "Grenade out," and tossed a crushed soda can like it meant something. I stood in the doorway. Watching. Silent. Burning. One of the staff, some kid barely out of college, nudged me with a grin. "Pretty cool, right? Gets 'em engaged." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because the last time I heard someone yell, "Grenade," Caleb didn't laugh. He jumped on it. And the last time I saw someone fall to the ground, I had to hold their chest together while they tried to whisper a name they couldn't finish. Jaden saw me watching. Saw my hands curl into fists. Saw the way my shoulders stiffened. And for a second, I think he understood. But then he raised his toy gun toward me. Smirked. And yelled, "Target spotted, get Grandpa." The rest of them laughed. Loud. Sharp. Empty. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just walked to the center of the room. And stood among the chaos. The rubber bullets stopped flying. The laughter faded. 12 sets of eyes turned toward me. Like I'd broken the spell. I picked up one of their toy rifles from the ground. Weighed it in my hand. Turned it slowly. Then said, quiet enough to force them to lean in, "That's not a gun." They looked confused. I nodded. Because a real gun doesn't feel like plastic. It doesn't bounce when it hits the ground. And when it goes off, it doesn't leave a red mark. It leaves a hole. They didn't laugh this time. Jaden narrowed his eyes. I turned to him. "Tell me something, Jaden," I said. "You ever been in a room where someone stopped breathing, and there wasn't a damn thing you could do about it?" He shrugged. "Everyone dies. That's life." I stepped forward. Just one step. It was enough. Caleb Ross. He was 24. Married. Father to a daughter he never met. And he jumped on a grenade so the rest of us could crawl out. The name hit him like a shove. I saw it. The flicker. He didn't say anything. I tossed the toy rifle to the floor. "That thing," I said, "has never taken a life. But your attitude? That's killed more than you know." The bell rang, or maybe someone hit the lights. The session ended. They scattered fast. Jaden walked slower. Not smug this time. Just quiet. As he passed me, he said one thing. "You keep talking like war makes you wise. But it just made you sad." I didn't answer. Because he was right. And I wasn't ready to admit it. Ellipsis. He thought sadness was weakness. That was his mistake. Next time, he wouldn't get away with a smirk and a shrug. Because next time, he wouldn't be the one holding the gun. Third session. Same time. Same place. But the air felt different. Thicker. Like the silence had weight now. I walked into room 117. To find them already waiting. Not lined up. Not respectful. But watching. Eyes sharper. Like they'd stopped seeing me as a prop. And started seeing me as something to study. Jaden sat near the back this time. Hood down. Hands in his lap. No smart remarks. But something told me. That silence wasn't surrender. It was coiled. Waiting. We were supposed to talk about pressure. How stress turns people inside out. How combat doesn't care how tough you think you are. I got halfway through a story. One about a blackout convoy. And the sound of breathing. Through a broken radio. When Jaden stood up. No warning. No smirk. He walked to the front of the room. Pulled something from his waistband. And pointed it at my head. It was plastic. Bright orange. A toy. But when it's pointed at your face by someone with a storm in their chest, you don't feel the difference right away. Gasps echoed behind him. A couple kids laughed. The nervous kind. Like they were watching something they didn't know how to stop. Jaden stared at me. Hand steady. Eyes locked in. You said you don't flinch, he said. Let's see. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't even breathe. It wasn't pride. It wasn't ego. It was calculation. Because in that moment, I didn't see Jaden. I saw a dirt road in Nangarhar. I saw a young man with a real gun. Shaking in fear. Pulling the trigger anyway. And I saw Caleb. Blood on his lips. Saying my name like it might save him. So I reached into my coat pocket. And pulled out the thing I'd never shown them before. The metal. Cracked down the center. Edges sharp like it remembered the blast that broke it. I walked toward Jaden. Slow. Deliberate. He didn't lower the toy. Didn't blink either. We stared at each other. Like two men on a cliff. Deciding who jumps first. When I reached him, I opened his palm. And placed the metal there. He had the other half. I said. Died holding it. The room went still. Not just quiet. Still. Like time paused to listen. Jaden looked down. At the jagged edge. At the scratches. At the initials carved on the back. CR. He didn't ask who. Didn't need to. I stepped back. Voice low. Jaden, do you know what it feels like? To carry a man's death in your pocket. For 18 years? He didn't answer. His shoulders rose and fell. Like breathing hurt more than silence. Behind him, someone dropped a pen. The sound hit like thunder. Then came the whisper. From a voice I couldn't place. That ain't a game. Jaden sat down. Gently. Still holding the metal. Both hands. Like it might break if he breathed wrong. The rest of the class didn't laugh this time. They didn't speak. Not even after I finished the session. I walked out. Without another word. That night. As I drove home. I realized something. It wasn't the gun. That made Jaden dangerous. It was what he didn't know. About the weight behind it. Ellipsis. He held onto that metal like it meant something. But he didn't know who Caleb Ross really was. Or what it meant for him. Not yet. I came in early the next morning. Didn't have a session scheduled. But something in me said I needed to be there. Room 117 was empty. But it didn't feel that way. The silence had grown roots. It sat heavy in the walls. Settled in the chairs. I sat down. No lecture planned. No slides. No structure. Just me. And a memory that wouldn't leave me alone. When the boys filed in. Slower than usual. Less rowdy. They didn't sit like they used to. Some sat facing forward. Some kept their heads down. Jaden came in last. Still had the medal. He didn't wear it. Just held it. Like it might explain something if he stared long enough. I leaned forward in my chair. You all think war is noise, I said. But it's not. It's quiet. The kind of quiet that screams when it wants to break you. Nobody interrupted. So I told them a story. We were pinned down in a village with no name. Dust everywhere. No air support. Just static in the radio and the sound of our own breathing. It was night. Blackout orders. Caleb was on my left. We'd served 3 tours together. He said something that night I still hear every time I close my eyes. If I don't make it, you better live twice as hard for me. I remember laughing. Like it was just another joke. Another foxhole promise. Then we heard the click. Pressure plate. IED. He looked at me. And then shoved me backward. I paused. Not because I was choking up. But because when you say something that costs you everything, you want to say it right. I looked at Jaden. He didn't hesitate. I said, "And that's why I'm here. That's why you get to sit in those chairs. And pretend life owes you something. Because someone like him paid for that seat with his body." Jaden didn't say a word. But he didn't look away, either. And the others? The ones who used to laugh during every story. They just sat. Still. Like maybe, for the first time, they understood what silence actually meant. One of the boys, Carlos, I think, raised his hand. He was always quiet. Soft voice, big eyes. "Did you ever tell his family?" he asked. I swallowed hard. "No," I said. "I tried. I had the letter. The one he wrote the night before. But I never sent it. Didn't know how to say he died because I froze." Jaden's jaw tightened. He glanced down at the medal again. Then looked up. "Maybe you should tell me," he said. That's when I felt it. The shift. The change. Not in him. In me. I'd been carrying this story like a coffin. Heavy. Closed. Nailed shut. But now, someone was finally asking to open it. The bell rang. But nobody moved. I closed the notebook I hadn't written in once that day. Picked it up. And nodded. "Next time, I'll bring the letter," I said. As I walked out, I glanced back. Jaden was still sitting. Staring down at the medal. Like it had started to speak. Ellipsis. He wanted the truth. But the truth doesn't just live in paper and medals. It lives in the moments you wish you could erase. The ones you wake up to. Even when your eyes are wide open. I didn't sleep the night before the next session. Couldn't. Not with that letter sitting on my kitchen table. The same envelope. The same fold marks. Sealed. Unsent. Still carrying the weight of a man who died before he got to say goodbye. It wasn't addressed. Just marked. For her. For later. He meant his wife. He meant his daughter. He meant a version of himself that never got to come home. I stared at that envelope for hours. Didn't open it. Didn't need to. I'd read it once, back in the desert. It broke me then. I didn't know if I'd survive reading it again. The next morning, I slipped it into the inside pocket of my jacket. Same as the medal. The two things I swore I'd never carry together. But here I was. Doing exactly that. Room 117 was quiet when I arrived. Boys already in their seats. Phones off. No talking. They weren't waiting for entertainment anymore. They were waiting for something real. I sat down. Pulled the envelope from my jacket. And laid it flat on the table. No ceremony. No build-up. Just this. "This is a letter," I said. "Written by a man who died the next day. He never got to send it. And I never had the guts to deliver it." Jaden leaned forward. Hands clasped. Eyes locked on the letter like it might open by itself. "Was it from my dad?" he asked. I nodded. I didn't read it out loud. I couldn't. But I told them what was in it. How Caleb wrote about missing the way the floor creaked at home. How he hoped his daughter would grow up without remembering a father in uniform. Just a father who could sing badly and dance worse. He wrote about guilt. About the boys he couldn't save. And the ones he hoped wouldn't have to fight next. He ended with one line that still haunts me. "If I don't make it, tell her I wasn't afraid. Just sorry." No one in that room moved. Not a breath. Not a shift in a seat. Jaden looked down. His face stiff. Like he didn't know whether to cry or break something. I reached into my wallet. And pulled out the photo. It was worn. Creased. Faded at the corners. Caleb and me. In uniform. Smiling. It was taken 20 minutes before the blast. I passed it to Jaden. He laughed when that photo was taken. I said. 20 minutes later. I was pulling what was left of him out of a ditch. Jaden stared at the picture. For a long time. Then passed it to the next kid. And the next. One by one. Every boy in that room. Held a piece of that memory. I didn't give them a lesson plan that day. No drills. No questions. I just stood there, watching them sit with the weight of something real. For the first time in their lives. When class ended, nobody rushed out. They left quiet. Orderly. One by one. Jaden stayed behind. Looked me straight in the eye. "I don't know how to carry this," he said. I nodded. "Neither do I told him. I just stopped trying to carry it alone." Later that day, I found something by the door of the room. A mini American flag. One of those dollar store kinds. The stick half broken, but still upright. Someone had taped it to the side of a worn-out sneaker. No note. No signature. Just a symbol. A quiet one. But it said everything. ... He thought he came from nothing. But now he held proof that his bloodline didn't just survive war. It helped others survive it too. The next time Jaden spoke to me, he didn't ask for answers. He asked for the truth. "All this time," he said, "why didn't anyone tell me who he was?" We were sitting outside room 117. On a bench that had more rust than paint. The sky was low and gray. It matched the look on his face. I didn't answer right away. Because there's no good reason to hide a father from his son. Only complicated ones. "Your mom asked me not to," I said. "She said she didn't want you growing up in someone else's shadow. Didn't want you measuring your worth by a war you never chose." Jaden clenched his jaw. Nodded. Didn't argue. "She thought keeping him a memory would keep you safe," I added. "But I think she underestimated you." He sat with that for a while. Didn't speak. Didn't move. Just stared out across the courtyard. Like he was watching someone leave. And wasn't sure whether to chase after them or let them go. I always thought he left because I wasn't enough. He finally whispered. I thought maybe I did something wrong. I turned toward him. "Jaden," I said. "He died protecting someone he loved. Not running away from someone he didn't." That night, I went home and pulled out a folder I'd kept buried for years. Inside, a copy of Caleb's service record. A few photos he'd mailed home. A letter he wrote me after our first tour. And a medal. Not the broken one. The other. Whole. Polished. It was time. The next morning, I walked into the room early. Jaden was already there. He stood when I walked in. But not out of fear. Or pride. Out of something else. Respect. I placed the folder on the desk. Opened it. One piece at a time. The record. The photo of Caleb holding newborn Jaden in a hospital room. The letter. Sealed. And then. The medal. Jaden stepped forward. Slow. Like every inch was heavier than the last. He reached out. Took the medal in both hands. Didn't speak. Just stared. I kept this for him, I said. Because he earned it. And never got the chance to wear it. Jaden's voice cracked. He'd want me to have it? I nodded. He'd want you to earn it. Not by fighting a war. But by becoming the kind of man who doesn't need one to prove who he is. That day, something shifted. Not just in Jaden. In the whole class. He didn't show off anymore. Didn't cut jokes. Didn't push buttons just to watch things fall apart. Instead, he started listening. Helping. At first, the others didn't know what to make of it. But change has a way of catching fire. Once someone lights the match. By the end of the week, Jaden stayed behind after every session. He'd ask about Caleb. About his laugh. His habits. His fears. He wanted stories. The kind you don't find in service records. And I gave them to him. One at a time. Until I didn't feel like I was burying the past anymore. I was passing it forward. That weekend, the staff held a community day. Open house. Barbecue. A flag hung from the basketball hoop. Jaden walked in wearing something new. A simple patch. Stitched onto his hoodie. It said, R.L. Ross. Live for those who can't. Nobody told him to wear it. Nobody asked him to. But every person who saw it understood exactly what it meant. Ellipsis. He wasn't running from the past anymore. He was walking straight into it. ready to carry what others were too afraid to face. It started with a knock. Late Friday afternoon. Office empty. Sky already leaning toward dusk. I was just packing up when I heard it. 2 short knocks, 1 long. Like someone unsure if they were allowed to be there. I opened the door. Jaden stood on the threshold. No hoodie. No slouch. Just him. Older than last week. Though barely a day had passed. He held a small notebook in one hand. In the other. A folded sheet of paper. Creased and recreased. Until it looked like something sacred or ruined. Maybe both. I wrote something, he said. I think it's time I know more. We sat across from each other. No desks. No separation. Just 2 chairs. And the kind of silence that deserves its own space. He opened the notebook. Read aloud, voice steady. My name is Jaden Ross. My father died before I could remember him. For most of my life, I thought that meant he didn't care. Now I know he cared enough to die for someone else. And I'm just trying to learn how to live like that means something. I let the words settle. Didn't clap. Didn't speak. Just nodded. Once. The kind of nod a soldier gives. When no salute is needed. Because respect is already understood. Jaden held out the paper he'd brought. I found this in my mom's closet. Hidden in a box of old stuff. It's from him. I took it gently. Unfolded it. It was Caleb's handwriting. I knew it instantly. All caps. Sharp. Deliberate. A note to his son. It read. If you ever read this. It means I didn't make it back. I'm sorry for that. But don't let my death be the first chapter of your story. You're not here to carry my shadow. You're here to cast your own light. I handed it back. Jaden didn't cry. But he blinked a few times like the air in the room had gotten too thick. I want to do something, he said. Something real. For him. For me. And he did. That Monday. He walked into room 117 early. Chalked 3 words onto the board before anyone else arrived. Honor. Memory. Choice. He stood in front of the room like I had all those weeks ago. No medals. No lecture. Just a folded letter in his hand. And a story in his chest. He was finally ready to tell. He didn't speak about war. He spoke about absence. About what it's like to grow up. With a silence where a father's voice should be. About learning to stop resenting a man. Who never had the chance to explain himself. Some of the boys looked at their shoes. One wiped his eyes. No one laughed. When he finished. He looked over at me. I nodded. And he said. Mercer doesn't talk much about himself. But I know this. He lived through hell. And he came back not to brag. But to build. That afternoon. We walked the perimeter of the grounds together. No words. Just boots on gravel. Echoing in rhythm. He stopped by the old flagpole. Looked up at the ropes clanking gently in the wind. You think I'm ready? He asked. I didn't answer. I just handed him a flag. Ellipsis. He took the flag like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Because now, for the first time, it actually meant something. It was a Tuesday. No ceremony. No cameras. Just the sky. The wind. And 12 boys who had no idea. They were about to remember something for the rest of their lives. Jaden stood at the base of the flagpole. His hands tied around the folded stars. Not shaking. Not performing. Just ready. I stood beside him. But a step back. This wasn't my moment anymore. This was his. One by one, the others came out. Carlos. Riley. Malik. Even Jamal. The kid who used to throw paper balls across the room every 5 minutes. Stood still with his hands behind his back. No one told them to dress up. But they tucked in their shirts. Combed their hair. Like they understood the difference between showing up and showing respect. Jaden stepped forward. Raised the flag. Slow. Deliberate. No music played. But the silence did something better. It held them. Every single one. When the flag reached the top. Jaden tied it off with a knot. like he'd practiced it 100 times. Then turned. Spoke to all of them. Voice clear. I used to think this place was a joke. That uniforms were costumes. That service was something dumb people signed up for. Because they didn't have better options. But now I know. Service isn't about showing off. It's about showing up. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. No applause. Just the wind. And the way they looked at him. Like maybe, just maybe, they could be more than their worst day. After the flag was up, Jaden pulled something from his pocket. It was the broken metal. Still sharp. Still heavy. He walked over to me. Held it out. I think I'm done holding on to this, he said. But I'm not done remembering. I took it. Folded it into my palm like a promise. You never will be, I said. That's the point. Later that week, Jaden's mom showed up. She'd heard about the ceremony. Didn't know what to expect. He met her at the gate. Hugged her like a man who understood forgiveness. Doesn't come wrapped in explanations. Just presence. She cried. He didn't. But he held her tighter than he ever had. Before she left, she walked over to me. You saved him, she said. I shook my head. No, I replied. He saved himself. I just stood still long enough for him to find the space to do it. That night, I sat in my truck. Same spot I always did. Watching the last light fade off the roof of room 117. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself breathe. Not the kind of breath that fills your lungs. The kind that empties your chest. Of everything you've been too afraid to feel. Jaden was walking out of the building. Hood up. Back straight. Medal gone. Flag still flying. He caught my eye. And for the first time since I met him, he smiled. Not wide. Not flashy. Just real. Ellipsis. The war wasn't over. Not for me. Not for him. But for the first time. We weren't fighting it alone. It's strange how silence changes over time. In the beginning, it was a weapon. Then, it became a shield. Now, it feels like a kind of peace. The kind you earn. Not the kind that just shows up. 2 weeks passed since the flag went up. Jaden kept coming to class. Kept leading. Not with his mouth. With his choices. He started helping the younger ones. The ones who used to laugh the loudest. Now watching him like he was something worth becoming. Room 117 started to feel different. Still smelled like sweat and old floors. Still buzzed with flickering lights. But it felt lighter somehow. Like the ghosts had been acknowledged. Not chased away. Just seen. And that was enough. One afternoon, Jaden brought in a box. Old cardboard. Worn. Taped in 4 corners. He set it on my desk. I found this in our garage, he said. Thought you might know what to do with it. Inside. Photos. Letters. Dog tags. A cassette tape with Caleb's handwriting. For Ray Mercer. Play when ready. I stared at that tape for a long time. My hands didn't want to touch it. Like it might break whatever healing we'd started. Jaden leaned in. I haven't listened, he said. I figured, maybe you should go first. I nodded. But I didn't play it then. Not yet. That night, I went home. Sat in the kitchen with nothing but the hum of the fridge. And the sound of that cassette turning slowly in my palm. When I finally hit play. His voice came through. Grainy. But unmistakable. Hey, Ray. If you're hearing this. It means I probably didn't get the chance to say this in person. So here goes. You always had my back out there. Every mission. Every dumb decision I made. You were the steady one. If I don't come home. I want you to know. I didn't regret a second. Not one. But promise me something. Don't carry my death like it's a punishment. Carry it like it's proof we mattered. You live, Ray. Twice as hard. For both of us. When the tape clicked off. I didn't cry. But I let the silence stay for a while. Because that voice. It was still alive. In all the ways that counted. The next day. I brought the tape to class. Played it for all of them. Every boy sat still. Not because I asked. Because they knew. They knew what it meant to carry someone else's voice. To feel the weight of absence. And still stand tall under it. When the tape ended, Jaden stood. And for the first time, he called me something different. Not, sir. Not, Mercer. He said, "Thank you, Uncle Ray." I didn't correct him. Didn't deflect. Didn't downplay it. I just nodded. Because maybe that's what we both were now. Not blood. But bonded. By war. By silence. By survival. And before the boys left that day, Jaden walked back to the flagpole. Took the flag down. Folded it clean. Then whispered something only I could hear. He's not just a name anymore. He's the reason I know who I want to be. And me? I finally stopped counting the years I'd been carrying guilt. Because now, someone else was carrying legacy. And doing it with pride.